Hi guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. This year, I have been reading significantly more than before, and if you can't tell by the title of this channel, I mainly read fantasy. One of the subgenres that I'm really into is Asian-inspired fantasy. Also, if you can't tell where I am from, maybe I am more familiar with the Asian Eastern culture. See how the author plays around with it and integrate this concept into their own fantasy world is very fascinating. So in today's video, I will talk about all the Asian-inspired fantasies I have read, what the series is about, what sort of inspiration they have adopted, and how well they execute it. This list is actually quite long, and I am looking down to all the books that I have picked for this video. For you guys to follow more easily, I have put all this series into different categories. The first category is pretty straightforward. Those series that are inspired by Asian history, meaning that the author will kind of alter the history and add a dash of fantasy element into this world. We will usually follow, of course, Asian main characters, and for the fantasy elements, maybe it is a magic system, or maybe we will see some Asian mythical creatures like Phoenix. And the readers will pick up a fantasy book and go through a slightly different adventures, and also you can learn some Asian history. Other than those that are based on history, we also have books that are inspired by Asian culture. Rather than bounded to a certain historical period of time, they may take certain objects that could be important or symbolize certain Asian cultures. At last, I have this funny category, just set in a fantasy world that is Asianish. I know it is weird to say because this video is all about the Asian-inspired fantasy, but you will get what I mean when I talk about them. Shall we start with this funny category? First of all, I have 5 Broken Blades by Mike Cullen, the first book of this series. The reason why I put this one into this category is because of a note left by the author in the beginning of the book. Basically, that note is about the author is into Korean culture, but this world is not set in a real world. Rather, it is constructed by all the research that the author has done. So from time to time in this book, you will find certain Korean elements. I still remember all the food in this book is very intriguing. In terms of the Asian elements, I wouldn't say it is strong in this book. And this book is about a group of assassins trying to take down a god king in Yusan. They are all liars, so they have to work through all the manipulation along the way. This book, I'm not gonna lie, may be the worst book I have read in 2024. The main reason behind is I don't think the author delivered what is promised, i.e. the mind game. The writing is also quite average. This one turns out to be a fantasy romance as well. 6 POVs in total, and we have 3 pairs of lovers already. There is just so much needed to be developed between these 3 pairs of lovers, so the romance is unfortunately on the convenient side. So I don't recommend anyone to check this series out unless you are very ready for it. Sorry. And the other series that falls to this category is the Pact and the Pattern trilogy by J.T. Greathouse. This series is about our main character, Foolish Kerr, learn about his family secrets and try to make the world better by becoming the hand of the emperor. Throughout this series, we will follow one elder since he was very young to work for the empire and realize what they are actually doing and to try to rectify the mistakes. Once again, in these 3 books, I couldn't find any very strong Asian cultural or historical elements. What I would say is that this series has borrowed quite a lot of Chinese philosophies or concepts to the story. From the format of the imperial exam to the setup of the empire, and also some Chinese philosophies thrown between here and there. You can tell the author has done some research on this topic. Overall, I did enjoy this series, but I think it could be concluded in a much better way. It was a bit rushed. You watched this far already, don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe to my channel Dantasy so you can see me more on your YouTube homepage. Why not also share your favorite Asian-inspired fantasies in the comment below. So these are the 2 that falls into this category. Now we will move on to talk about those series that are based on history. To begin with, I have 2 series that are inspired by Chinese history, and I will talk about them in chronological order. Firstly, I have the Radiant King duology by Shelley Parker Chan. This is about our main character, Zhu Zhongba, a poor girl from a rural village and stole her dead sibling's fate to achieve greatness in her life. In these two books, I would say that the first one is more strategic. We're gonna follow more on the battles and see how Zhu gonna turn the tide of the war. In the second book, I would say it is on the darker side. We're gonna look at other characters, let's say Wang Baoxiang, a Nanren adopted to a Mongolian royal family. What he do can never please them. And also we have Oyan, a Mongolian eunuch general, who tried to take revenge to them because of what they have done to him in the past. At this point, you can already hear me keep saying Mongolian because this duology is based on a historical period of time called Yuan Dynasty, when the Mongolian invaded China in the 13th century. To be precise, it is nearly the end of this dynasty. Zhu Zhongba is not a fictional character, it is real in Chinese history. He is also the one who later started the Ming Dynasty in 1368. Majority of the characters in this duology, you can find them in history. Let's say the rifles, the romantic encounters, they are based on real people. But other POV, let's say Oyan and Wang Baoxiang, I can't really find who are they based on. Still, I think these two books are great because all the battles and the turn of events are based on history. And I think it is a great way to learn this part of Chinese history. Other than the historical references, I love the first book being strategic and see how every character gonna work in a battle. The second book really deep dive to the darker side of the characters. I really enjoy the character developments in these two books. It is really dark. It comes from what they have gone through and how people treat them. It also explores issues like racial acceptance and queer identity. The other series that is based on Chinese history is my all-time favorite, and it is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Maybe I should just hold the first book because it is really heavy. This one is about our protagonist, Rin, who don't want to accept this arranged marriage. So she studied very hard and got a chance to study in Signgard, a military school. What she and other students would never expect is the invasion from the Federation of Mughals. And also there is a bigger political scheme by one of the warlords. This is literally my all-time favorite Asian-inspired fantasy because it is very dark. Seeing Rin from a girl nobody cares about to go through a lot in these conflicts, figure out who to trust, who to follow, and being treated as a subject in experiment. And as a shaman, she is destined to go mad. The ending of this series is very upsetting and there is no perfect ending. Honestly, I think this is the best representation of historical fantasy. I can't praise R.F. Kuang enough because it is just so well executed. I have done 2 videos for the first 2 books all about this kind of historical references, what the society is like at that time during the Qing dynasty, the fall of the Nikan Empire and the rise of the warlord system, Rin and Naja as Mao Zedong and Chiang Kai-shek, the leaders of the 2 political parties at that time, the foreign invasion and its impact to the people. All of that from this book is reflecting what had happened in China. Other than history, you can also find some Chinese culture in here. Let's say some folk story being discussed in the classroom, the 5 elements, mythical creatures like Phoenix, how darker skin color is being seen in society. All of that just reflect how smart R.F. Kuang is and how much research she has done. If you are looking for a perfect example of historical fantasy, this is it. The last book falling into this category is The Nightingale and the Falcon series by Stephen Iron. This one is a bit different from the last 2 because this is inspired by the Persian history in the 13th century. Same as the Radiant King duology, it is also about Mongolian invasion. In this book, you can find 2 POVs from the Mongolian. First of all, we have a Khan called Halugu and his neglected son, Temujin. And the other 2 is from a rebellion, a princess called Kokojin and a rebel called Kafan. So this series is about how the Mongolian expand their invasion, but secretly, the rebels are plotting against them. In the beginning of the book, the author has stated that this one is inspired by Persian history, but he has to rearrange the events to fit the story and also add some fantasy elements to it. So this one is not a historical fiction. Overall, I did enjoy this book. Through these 4 POVs, we're gonna see how both sides work, so the plot itself is quite interconnected. Even though I am not too familiar with the Persian history, I just know a bit of the Mongolian one. I wish I could because I can find out how the author is inspired by it. I still enjoyed reading this one and everything did make sense. After those that are inspired by Asian history, now we are moving to the final category, books that are based on Asian culture. First one, I have The Night Ends with Fire by K.H. Sung. This is about our main character, Mei Lin, didn't accept this arranged marriage, so she dressed up like a man and joined the army. She brought along a jade left by her long-dead mother so she can connect to a spirit, a sea dragon. In this world, Mei Lin has to find out who to trust and who to fight along with. In the very beginning of the book, you can find a note left by the author, and it is about how she and her grandfather share the same passion for the Romance of Three Kingdoms, a very classic military novel in China. So you can find a couple of this note in the story, let's say the setting of this world and also the name of some characters. I can also find another very well-known reference here, which is Mulan, a girl dressed up like a man to enlist in the army. Even I can find these 2 references from this story. How the plot evolves have nothing to do with these references. So I would say that in terms of Asian culture, it is not too strong. The next one I have is a slightly better one, I promise, and it is The Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This one is about the Cao family which specialize in jade business. We will see how every family member gonna do whatever they need to protect its legacy. In this world, jade is such a special gem because it can grant you superhuman abilities with the correct right training. Obviously, the first cultural reference here is the jade itself. Jade holds special meaning across Asia. This gem has such a long history in China and can be dated back in 1000 BC. In history, it is seen as a way to connect to the spiritual realm, which in these 2 books you can find stories about it. It is also a gem that symbolizes peace and durability because of how sturdy the jade is. Another cultural element I can think of is about the pop culture, the gangster movie. To attract more potential readers across the world, they would sell this series as like Godfather set in an Asian world. But to me, it feels more like inspired by the gangster movie in Asia. It was very popular in the 80s and 90s, and of course, you can still find them nowadays. In these movies, the gangster will put the gang first and treat it as a family. They will call each other brother, which you can also see in the story, Hilo, one of the family member, how he gonna treat those that are close to him. The last thing I can think of is the map of this world. This series is taking place in a fictional world called K-Con and mainly took place in a city called Jianlun. I am from Hong Kong, and when I see these names, I already know that this map is based on Hong Kong. The city, Jianlun, is named after Kowloon, and the harbor in this world is inspired by the Victoria Harbor. I have just finished the first book and I am quite impressed by all these references. The last series I'm gonna talk about is a very fun one, and it is the War Art series by Wesley Zhu. In short, it is about Jian, the chosen one, not ready for what's gonna happen. So a martial artist, Tashi, hopes to forge him into a weapon he should be. And there are other very interesting POV, let's say Tsusami, a very fun bounty hunter. And Sally, the one supposed to be the vessel for the Eternal Khan, the one that Jian has to defeat in the future. If you can't tell by the title of this series, the cultural reference here is martial art. The author really loves martial art and he was a stunt actor before. So the action scenes in both books are really lively. One interesting thing is that when our characters play a certain style, the narrative would give it a very cool name. It is also very common in martial art literature in Hong Kong. There will be like names for like all these like martial art styles. This one I did like the action. There are just too many for me to hold, so should I say like these are all the Asian inspired fantasy that I want to cover in this video. I hope that you will understand more about Asian history and culture. Let me know in the comment which one is your favorite or do you have any recommendation for me. So if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I will see you all real soon. Goodbye. It's heavy. Oh my god.